Okay, thank you so much for being on to our United Way of Broward County Lunch and Learn today. Um, Again, if you have a question, please ask it in the chat box. Those will be facilitated at the end of the presentation during our Q&A session. If you'd like to mute and go off camera, please do so. And if everybody else can mute, that would be wonderful besides the speakers. We greatly appreciate that. So I do think that this is a really hot topic for today. I appreciate all of our speakers that have made it onto the presentation. Thank you so much for giving some insight. I know we're all wondering about what it's going to be like, all the things that have been lost during this time of quarantine and getting back into our usual working, semi-usual working environments. So today we have with us to present on this topic our very own Danielle Doss from United Way of Broward County. We have Mark Reyes with Urban League, who is one of our community partners. We also have Jody Ellis with ARC Broward, another community partner of ours, and Felipe Pinzon, who is from Hispanic Unity, which is yet another one of our amazing community partners that helps us to do all of the work that we do here in Broward County. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. We'll go ahead and start off with you, Danielle.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathryn, and good afternoon, everyone. Really appreciate you all for taking the time to tune in to one of many lunch and learns that United Way of Broward County has led during this time of COVID. We know that there are so many needs and so many shifts that have taken place in our lives and the lives of our Broward County residents. And so today we thought it really important to continue the conversation about economic mobility and financial stability here in Broward County. What did that look like before? We all know that 50% of Broward County's population is low income or are falling within the ALIS population. And we gave a presentation on new ALIS data and report that was released on last month. So today we really wanted to share with you and bring forth our subject matter experts that we partner with in our area of financial stability for Broward County. So I would like to back up and say, for those of you who don't know United Way's mission, we fight for the education, the health, and the financial stability of every person in our community. And so under the area of financial stability, United Way certainly provides funding to our local community nonprofits who are providing financial coaching, employment placement, job advancement supports, as well as income supports, along with housing and asset building services as well. And back in 2012 is really where United Way began to invest in a very streamlined way in the model that we refer to as the Center for Working Families. It is a national model created by the Annie E. Casey Foundation to give families a hand up and not a hand out. And so the way in which that is implemented is through an integrated bundled service approach, where we're meeting families where they are. If they are unemployed, they can come and help get help to get a job. If they are underemployed, they can come and receive services to get vocational training, as well as career advancement supports. In addition to that, there are different levels of support that are given across the different populations, target populations that our community providers serve. So we know that there's lots of work to do, even prior to COVID, to help our families become economically self-sufficient, to become financially stable. And United Way continues to not only fund that work, but to advocate for that and educate about that work through our ALIS report, as well as our partnerships with local funders, as well as community providers. Under the pillar of financial stability for United Way of Broward County, we also fund work as it relates to homelessness and housing, food insecurity. I really want to thank the Jim Moran Foundation for their partnership, their support, and their participation on today's webinar, because through their partnership, we're able to address food insecurity, Broward being the largest food insecure population here in Broward, South Florida. So we do that through our Project Lifeline program. All of that to say that when United Way of Broward County began to seek ways to get at the front of COVID-19 and how we're going to be able to support our families, how are we going to be able to support our partner agencies, we realized very quickly that emergency financial assistance as it relates to housing for mortgage and rent, utilities, food, transportation, for those that still had to go into work or pay their car insurance would be critical needs where we would need to step in to help fill some of that gap. In addition to that, like I said, food insecurity, being able to ramp up the amount of food that we've given to local food banks, food pantries, new food distribution sites that we've created, just to make sure that we're able to help families sustain or maintain during this time. So I don't want to take additional time to, I really want to get to the experts on the call. So as I said, back in 2012, United Way of Broward County launched the Center for Working Families program. We began with 3 partners, Hispanic Unity, Urban League of Broward County, and ARC Broward, each of them that serves unique targeted populations, all providing them supports in the areas of employment, financial coaching, and asset building. We're going to talk a little bit today about how each of those agencies have responded to the need. What are the needs that they're seeing? What are the ways in which each organization has had to pivot and considerations that they'll have to make as they move forward, and how we as funders, as community partners, as residents of Broward County can link together to continue this very important work of addressing insecurities in our county. So without further ado, I will pass it on to Jody Ellis to speak first for ARC Broward.
Great, thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Jody Ellis, and I'm the Vice President of Workforce Services at ARC Broward. And ARC Broward supports people with disabilities and other life challenges. And in our Center for Working Families program, we primarily serve adults, although we do have a handful of transition age youth who are getting ready to age out of the public school system. In terms of the disabilities that we see or that are part of our population include physical disabilities, intellectual or developmental, and those with behavioral health diagnosis. And the folks that we serve generally have a goal of employment, and some come to us with a goal of receiving training so that they could be more marketable for employment. And for the most part, the population prior to COVID-19 had their essential needs met, and they were really coming to ARC Broward for services to improve their overall self-sufficiency. And as Danielle said, we had been a partner with United Way, the Center for Working Families Initiative, since 2013. And we really got involved because prior to COVID-19, in terms of the economic reality of the folks that we serve, there has always been an unemployment disparity between people with disabilities and those without disabilities. So people with disabilities generally have 3 times the unemployment rate as those without disabilities. So before the pandemic, in Broward County, unemployment for people with disabilities was in the 16 to 18% range, which obviously is still very high, but that was actually one of the lowest all time. Prior to that, it had been around 23%. So at any given time, we are supporting about 100 people in our Center for Working Families program. And we had 65 individuals who were employed. During COVID-19, or since COVID-19 pandemic, we had 50% of people who have been negatively impacted. So 46% had lost employment. Other individuals that were negatively impacted either had a reduction in work hours or had to take a leave of absence because of health concerns. The good news is that 11% of those have returned back to work this month. And we are expecting about another 6% to return to work. They just don't have a return start date yet. However, what this means is that we have 32% of people who were working who are now displaced and unemployed, and they are going to need retraining as well as replacement services. Our certificate programs during the pandemic were closed, so this is causing some delay for the individuals that we serve to get credentialed and to get certificates so that they can be more marketable for the workforce. How our Center for Working Family program pivoted to meet the needs of Broward County residents, we immediately changed to a virtual service delivery model. So we had our trainer conducting professional development classes and financial literacy classes on Zoom by March 24th. So we really adjusted some of the topics to make sure that we were current to the times. We had topics, a lot of topics with budgeting, making individuals aware of non-essential expenses that they could cut. We did a lot of education about economic stimulus checks, unemployment assistance, and then we also worked about virtual conferencing etiquette that many did not know, health and safety training, how to maintain social distancing, and online interviewing practices. We also did job coaching supports for those, the 46% of the individuals who remained employed. They still got job coaching supports. Those supports were done through WhatsApp or FaceTime or phone, anything that we could do to help support them to maintain their employment throughout the pandemic. The other thing that we did was we put out a request for virtual volunteers, and we used our virtual volunteers to help us with mock interviewing. So that was really a lot of success. We had business advisory council members as well as business representatives in Broward County step up to the challenge. And we had over 20 mock interviews. We have over 11 different volunteers who are helping with that. So that's just been a wonderful way to upskill our participants as well as to engage our community members. We're also providing a little bit more of case management supports than maybe we were prior, just ensuring that our program participants are connected with the needed community resources. I think the most important part of our discussion today is really what are our needs moving forward? What considerations do we need to take into matter? And one is, it will be so critical for all of us to respond to the changing needs of our local businesses. And, you know, one manner or one example of this would be for our culinary arts graduates. They may, in the past, we may have focused on employers in the restaurant industry. However, restaurants are going out of business or they are cutting their workforce. They've had to really change their focus. So we need to work with employers that might be on a bulk food meal production model of service as opposed to maybe the in-lobby restaurant business. It's going to be really important for us to stay on top of the workforce trends and to ensure that our clients can align with any of these emerging markets. And another example of that would be remote work opportunities. My guess is that more businesses may go to remote work and offer more remote work opportunities. So we need to ensure that we upskill our participants so that they can be successful with virtual work. And we need to assess our client skills and just see if there are transferable skills that they could enter into a different industry as needed. And we expect one of our biggest challenges will be that we will have individuals who are going to need additional job development support that before they were employed. So we thought, you know, they're just getting on the job coaching supports, and now they're going to really need replacement services as well as opportunities to relearn some skills. And we need to really ensure that we are focusing on our employer partnerships. I think cultivating relationships with businesses is going to be a key to our success. There is a short job supply with a high demand, and so employers are going to have numerous candidates that they are going to be able to consider for open positions, and it could set people with disabilities at a disadvantage. So it'll be really important for us to cultivate those relationships. And the other thing that I don't want us to forget about is that, you know, we do have to appreciate or acknowledge some of the opportunities that this pandemic has given us. And what I mean by that is that, you know, we have created some efficiencies as a result of virtual work. You know, we have improved upon our use of technology, which is super important. Maybe some of the virtual meetings and virtual interviewing could be a little bit more efficient than maybe what we were doing in the past. And, you know, we should just take advantage of recognizing those opportunities and continuing those opportunities where it makes sense to do so. For our population group, transportation has always been a challenge. So for that case, going forward for the future, we really need to take into consideration a blended model and still include some of those virtual services so that we can address some of the challenges that our population is serving. So I think in terms of the future and Broward County's economic recovery, you know, we have social distancing measures. There's a lot of stressors that are occurring for us, for the participants that we serve. And I think that we just, you know, the population that we serve is at higher risk of abuse and neglect. And I think that we just need to together look out for those who are most fragile and most vulnerable during this time. And I really think that the Center for Working Families model of programming as staff members, as nonprofit community organizations, we just need to continue to be role models for resiliency. And I think we're going to see a lot of braided funding from the public, from government, from private resources, that all working together is really going to enhance our service delivery as well as the economy. So I expect that we will all have to continue to be very flexible, and we can all expect more change because it will happen. So that's a little nutshell about what is happening here with ARC Broward.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jody, for sharing that. Often we don't understand the challenges. Everyone has challenges, but the challenges are unique to specific target population, and ARC has certainly done amazing work in the area of employment and recruiting businesses to support those individuals with disabilities to be able to have the work experiences. And I think that as a community, we're beginning to see that we need to shift the way that we engage our businesses, engage employers, and the jobs that will become available as a result of COVID, and there are jobs that will be lost, right? No longer available as a result of COVID. How do we begin to shift our relationships with our businesses to prepare our populations for those opportunities to come, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. Next, I want to jump right into the Urban League of Broward County. We have with us Mark Reyes, the Vice President of Community Impacts, to share a little bit about what's happening at the Urban League in the areas of financial stability and their entrepreneurship, an organization that serves primarily the African American community. Mark, it's up to you.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Danielle. So again, my name is Mark Reyes. I'm the Vice President of Program Impact at the Urban League of Broward County. Hopefully most folks know the Urban League. We've been around since 1975, working to enable African Americans and others from historically underserved communities to achieve economic self-reliance, power, parity, and civil rights. And we really do that primarily through a social service model of 6 pillars: education, entrepreneurship, jobs, justice, housing, and health. We use a lot of acronyms, so remember that we say EEJJHH, and it flows really well. So I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing in relation to COVID-19. I'll share some, we've been a partner with United Way and the CWF program since the beginning, so thank you again to United Way for that partnership. It's really been a great program for us. After COVID started and we started moving virtual, we did do a survey of some of our clients. We surveyed over 500 of our clients, and just want to share, so this was probably in the April time period, want to share what some of that data looked like. 75% excuse me, of the households that responded had children in the home. So as we think about the impact of school closures, children learning virtually, parents, lack of access to childcare and the like, in terms of thinking about families going back to work, that's a challenge there. 30% of our respondents had at least someone over the age of 60. So those who are most impacted by coronavirus, again, those concerns, making sure that we're keeping our seniors healthy. 89% of our respondents had incomes under 60,000. So as we think about those who are low to moderate income, that really is, you know, the clients that the Urban League is serving. At the time that they responded to the survey, 60% of those families had lost income. I imagine many of those who hadn't indicated that they had lost income probably did post their completing the survey. A lot of the clients and what we're hearing were in the travel and tourism industry, in the hospitality industry, and many of them were also self-employed. And I'll talk a little bit about that and what we're doing to support small business owners in a minute. And then again, the 3 greatest concerns, and everyone's probably seeing this, were food, housing, and utilities. So really the core of what every family needs were those things that were of most concern to our families. And again, thank you to United Way. We also had Jim Moran Foundation and other folks come together to allow us to relaunch what we call our Families First Fund. So back in 2017 with Hurricane Irma, we did the Restore 954 initiative, and we were able to launch the Families First Fund, which helped to provide financial assistance to those who are facing a hardship. We relaunched that campaign this year in relation to COVID-19, really to help mitigate just some of that initial financial hardship. And what we're seeing now is that a lot of folks who applied the first time are seeking more assistance still. And so as we look to what the future holds, and if we have another return of COVID and we're seeing the numbers go up, what that might look like if we revert back to some closures of businesses. But through that fund, we've served around 200 families, over almost $150,000 in assistance. And again, we're still getting requests for folks who are seeking additional assistance. And primarily it's rent, utilities, and food. And those are the main concerns. Fortunately, the governor has issued a moratorium through June 30. We are hopeful that he'll probably need to extend it, so we're hoping that he'll extend that. Again, I think our challenge is helping figure out until the economy is back up and running in the same way that it was prior to COVID-19, how do we support our families in making sure that they're able to be at least stable? That is at least the baseline goal for our work. So looking at our 6 pillars, I'll start off with education. So, we're trying to be supportive of our young people as they're learning from home. We were really pleased to host what we call decision days, where our seniors announce what college they're going to. We were able to do that virtually through Zoom, and all of our programs have moved to, just like Jody mentioned, to that virtual model, which has really, pushed us, I think. We've talked about technology for a long time, and this really forced our hand on the technology side. So while, so again, there's some opportunity that has come out of this. It's still been a challenge. I think when we think about, particularly in our health area, we're working with a lot of seniors, whether they have access to technology or at least the savviness around using of computers. That's still a challenge that I think we'll need to navigate. And including working with some of our families and some of our young people. Fortunately, Broward County Schools allowed them to keep computers for the summer if they weren't a senior. But had they not had technology in the home, they wouldn't have been able to continue their education. And we're being really aware of the potential slip that's going to result as, because of learning virtually is different for families. And we even had some families who said they didn't even know school was back in session, right? So really making sure that our young people are getting the level of education that they're able to get at this time. Within our housing program, so we are, again, rental assistance is a big concern for a lot of families, being able to pay their rent. And again, and also educating landlords on the moratorium. We've had to do some of that advocacy for our clients, letting landlords know that although they're giving notices or they're trying to give notices, right now there is a moratorium, and helping, asking them to work with us and work with the clients and really make sure that we can keep our families in their homes. That's what we need at this point, just keeping them stable until, again, the economy goes back and running. And then the other flip side is for those who are homeowners looking at foreclosure. So there is concern, again, around foreclosure. There are some lenders who are being really flexible, thinking about not just doing a forbearance and requiring a balloon payment at the once everything gets back and running, but really just tacking on months to the loan, because we know that a balloon payment is not going to be possible in 4 months if you haven't been working. And even if you have been working, you're just going to start. If you start working up again, you're just going to start having your income back again. Our entrepreneurship center has really been working with small businesses to understand what available support is out there. So when we're looking at the PPP and other programs, other loan programs that have become available, really helping them to navigate with all those programs and provide some baseline of support to keep them running and keep some of their employees still on staff. We will be moving to continue that work, and then also figuring out how to prepare them to reopen and what that looks like, and understanding what their hiring needs are, and working with our jobs team to make sure that we're able to connect unemployed individuals or folks who are looking for additional employment to those job opportunities that may become available. We know that some small businesses will rehire those that they furloughed or laid off, but hopefully there will be some new opportunities for those who weren't working in those industries to also find employment. Through our Center for Working Families, it's been really important for us, again, financial stability. So working with our families, doing some budgeting, understanding what public supports are available. So from food stamps to, unemployment insurance, so the pandemic unemployment insurance programming, really helping them to navigate that, working through the appeals process, understanding what that process is. And we did a great Facebook Live session in partnership with Legal Aid, really helping to provide some of that information to our families. And I'm gonna think through my EEJJHH, making sure I'm covering all of those. Our jobs team, again, and I think this is a great opportunity, and we've been sharing with those that we work with in our CWF program and in some of our other programs, to think about this again as an opportunity. If your industry is shut down, is there an opportunity to do some additional education? Is there an opportunity to learn some new skills through programs that exist either at the Urban League or through Career Source Broward or the like? We have a partnership with Broward College, through our core program, which teaches supply chain management, black belt or white belt or Six Sigma white belt, looking at customer service certifications, all free programs that we're able to provide. We also have an additional partnership with New Horizons Computer School to do Amazon Web Service, for example. So things that there's an opportunity that we have now for folks to think about retooling, as we've mentioned, and if there's a career change that might be in the future for them. So there's other free programs that are available out there, and just encouraging folks to take advantage of this time to do that work while we await, again, for the economy to reopen. I will share again, you know, the Urban League serves over 13,000 individuals and families every year. And so there's a lot that are still not being helped in the way that we want them to be helped. And that's gonna be a challenge for us moving forward. I think for our donors and our community members and our supporters, thinking about flexibility with our programming is gonna be really key. Again, we're moved virtual, so some things that we used to be able to do in person, we're not able to do. And right now, I think, hopefully most folks know that Urban League has been acting as a testing site for COVID-19. We've actually extended 1 week through this week, and with the numbers the way they are, that might, you know, extend even further. So we are not open in terms of our building to community members. And so again, continuing this work virtually requires access to technology, requires us to think a little bit differently. And again, we're taking advantage of that opportunity to be able to move as many of our programs to that virtual workspace. So, you know, similar to Jody, doing a lot of our orientations and trainings online, creating webinars. We did a webinar on social determinants of health, which was an awesome opportunity to share our work in our Living Well area, which works with seniors around chronic disease management. And so moving a lot of that to that space is really important for us. And I also want to reiterate resiliency. That's a key word for the Urban League. We've been talking a lot about that. How do we make sure that our families are resilient now and in the future? Because we're going to continue to have some of these challenges, whether it's a recession, whether it's another epidemic, pandemic, whether it's another hurricane. And hopefully we won't have a hurricane this season, but you know, we're going to find ourselves in another crisis, and really wanting to make sure that our families are resilient as possible. And so we're actually looking at, we're working on a program now that we hope to launch soon that will work with families that have been impacted by COVID-19, meaning that someone in their family was diagnosed with COVID-19, really to help get the entire family back ready to enter the workplace, make sure that they're stable, make sure that no other family members are impacted or test positive for COVID-19. That program we're hoping to launch soon, in the next couple weeks. And really, you know, again, thinking about how do we get our families to be able to get through this time. I think, and finally, I'll say on our advocacy side, we want to still encourage census. I'm really big on our civic engagement work. I just want to remind people about census and voting. So census is really key, right? Because right now, this is what tells our federal government the number of people that are in communities, where they're living, and how to direct some of their funding. So we really want to make sure our numbers in Fort Lauderdale are still really low. I think we're in like the 50% in terms of response rate. So really important for us to encourage our clients, our community members to respond to the census. In 2010, the Broward County's response rate was around 74%, which meant we lost around $21 million a year in federal funding that could have come to the county. And so if we can make sure that we're increasing that response rate and making sure that everyone in Broward County is counted, and we're calling our campaign Advance the Count, and really wanting to make sure that folks are counted in Broward. And then again, around voting, right? Because voting is really important. We do have elections coming up, and we know that there are challenges in this time where folks, you know, are preoccupied, right? Voting and census are not on top of mind for folks, but just really reiterating the importance of both of those. April 18th is the primary election, and then in November, we'll have the general election, which will be another big one for the president. So encourage folks, if they're not yet registered, please register. If they want to access a vote by mail, they can request that. You know, so everyone can still participate in the process. while maintaining safety or any of their concerns. Danielle, I think that's all I have. I'm happy to take questions when we get to that Q&A session. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing the work of the Urban League of Broward County and all that you're doing across your pillars. I think what you shared really highlights the interrelated nature of health disparities and education levels and the different areas that you spoke about as your core pillars for Urban League and how those all work together to impact a family's ability to be economically mobile. And so certainly I think that there are questions. I certainly have questions, so I'll ask those towards the end. But as our speakers are sharing, I would just encourage, if you have a question, please put it in the chat and we will have one of our United We staff pose those questions to our panel at the end. Because we are moving closer to time, I want to introduce you to our next and final speaker, Felipe Pinzon of Hispanic Unity of Florida. Felipe, please take the wheel. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle and United Way for inviting Hispanic community to share more about, to share the work that Hispanic community is doing for the community. So I'm Felipe Pinzon, as Danielle said. I'm Senior Vice President of Strategy and Programs at Hispanic Community. We have been around for about 40 years in this community. We serve both Broward County and Miami-Dade. Even though most of our clients are Hispanic, 60% of them, we still serve the community at large. 40% of the clients we serve are non-Hispanic, and that's everyone in Broward County. So we serve the diverse community of this beautiful county. So we have been partner of United Way around the Center for Working Families since 2010. We still remember that initial conversation when we brought this approach to this community, and extremely grateful, for the support we have received for the past 10 years. United Way, as well as many other funders, have consistently supported this program and these three organizations. And for the last 10 years, we have been focused on making sure that families increase income. And we did so by helping them apply for benefits that they are eligible for. And in the last 3 years, I have to say, because if we talk about the reality, the financial reality of the clients we serve, for the last 3 years, we're still providing so much, help around income supports, public benefits, and employment. But I have to say that we make great progress. Our families make great progress. And back in 2015, 2016, we launched our housing project and program, and extremely proud to say that many of the clients that have gone through the Center for Working Families actually were able to purchase a house, which is what we all wanted to do, and they finally actually were able to meet that goal. That's actually one of our biggest concerns moving forward. And I will talk more about that in a little bit. So the financial reality is still, Hispanics having difficult time, of course, getting good jobs sometimes because their English is limited, or they don't have the education required to have those good jobs. But again, we make great progress, and everything changed, since March. So the reality for the clients we serve became more around, being able to actually put food on the table, paying utilities, paying the rent, buying medications if they needed to. So since March, what I could say, every time that I think about Center for Working Families, what I could say is that since March, Hispanic community became the Center for Working Families. So we sent 60 people to work from home, and all of us focus on making sure that the families we serve had everything they need to survive, of course, starting with food. But those are some of the major needs. They have also expressed, of course, the need for technology. We sent every child, home, and they were expected to join, and receive, education online. But what we didn't know is that the families we serve, for the most part, either don't have the equipment or don't have internet access. So Hispanic community also play a big role, in making sure they were able to secure those technology tools. Besides that, families are telling us that they are very concerned about their emotional well-being, and not just, parents, but of course their children being home and the social distancing, I guess is having an impact on their social skills and in family relationships. So that's one of our biggest concerns as well. So what is the Hispanic community did? Again, we sent everyone home. March 13, I still remember, like it is today. We said we go home, but we go home to continue doing what we do know best, which is providing services to the community. 2 days later, at least 40% of our staff actually had equipment they needed to start providing some of those services. And we focus on, again, making sure that they had their basic needs met. So what is that we did? We started providing SNAP application services. So far, about 350 applications have been submitted, impacting more than 700 family members. So we have been focused on making sure families have access to food. And we have to work with DCF, by the way, to be able to do that, because we used to do this in person. And guess what? DCF policies actually didn't allow, providers to provide these services online. So we work with DCF, we never stopped, we kept going. And so far, again, we have submitted more than 350 applications, but it's not just SNAP applications, also re-employment application, access to health, whether it was Medicaid, Florida Kid Care. Altogether, that adds another 200 applications. And besides that, we said, well, it's not enough, because most of the clients that we serve actually, even if they are eligible for one reason or another, they have a hard time receiving those benefits, and some of them are not eligible. So we started a campaign, and so far we have secured about $200,000 for emergency assistance, and extremely grateful for the support we have received from United Way, the Jim Moran Foundation, the Luca Foundation, and many others that actually said, we are on board. We help you providing that much needed assistance to families. So far, we have processed about 100 applications. 55% of those dollars that are going out actually were used to pay rent, and again, utilities and food. Those are that's the way we are using those dollars. Our VITA program, we said families are calling, we stopped providing free tax preparation right in the middle of the tax season, and clients kept calling Hispanic community to find out, how they could submit, file the tax return. So we went online, and we also created a free tax preparation hotline. So far, we have answered more than 1,000 questions just in about 3 weeks. And questions related, of course, to tax returns, to the stimulus package, and stimulus checks, and so many other concerns, from families. And we have served close to 100, families online in preparing their tax returns. So making sure that still increase income, and we save some families, some dollars. Employment. We said we became, an online provider. We are hosting workshops around resume critique and interviewing skills and job searching and a lot more. Our biggest concern, of course, is that families that were enrolled in the Center for Working Families are losing their jobs. We estimate that number could go up to 80%, which is extremely sad. For other programs, that number could go to 40%. And I really want to actually underscore that, because when it comes to putting something together that addresses the needs of the clients we serve, whether it's ARC, Urban Lead, or Hispanic community, I guess much of the focus moving forward has to be on income supports and employment, which is a critical piece, of the Center for Working Families, which is earning. How can we increase, family income really fast? So I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. We also schedule a series of financial management workshops, teaching clients how to manage their financials in times of crisis, including how to negotiate with financial institutions, right? Whether it was the mortgage, the credit card, you know, the car payment, and other payments. For the emergency assistance, again, we created our own flexible guidelines, besides, of course, the guidelines that we received from the funders. We created our own. And the reason for that is because due to the clients we serve, some of them, of course, you know, that don't have all the proper documentation, then we have to be more flexible, otherwise they wouldn't receive assistance. And I could give you, you know, examples like family here in the west of Broward County who parents were actually detained by ICE, children were left alone at home. We needed to be a lot more flexible, you know, in terms of providing services. Children, you know, they couldn't secure documents, you know, for us to prove that they were in need of services. So we went around, you know, those guidelines, came up with our own and provided some assistance. 14 immigrant families, you know, in Parkland, in a mobile home community who didn't have access to equipment, internet, you know, couldn't, if I'm not mistaken, they couldn't actually start classes online until late in April, early in May, because they didn't have any of those. So Hispanic community worked really close with Broward County Public Schools to make sure they have the equipment they needed. And at the same time, we provided emergency assistance, you know, putting food on the table and paying some of their utilities. We said we have to create tools, and we created a website. It's called havesafety.org. havesafety.org. And if you go online, you will see all the services, you know, that are out there in the community. It's not just what Hispanic community is doing, but everyone is doing in our community. I'm sure we're missing a lot, but I could say that for the most part, services and resources that are out there, you know, now are posted on that website. In addition to that, in collaboration with City Foundation and Urban League and other partners out of the Miami area, we work on something that is called Axis Helps. It's an online platform, you know, not just for individuals, but also for small businesses. If they go online, of course, they will be able to see what resources are available to them, you know, now in times of crisis and during COVID-19. Moving forward, I guess to address some of those needs, we were having some strategic discussions about who we have to become and if we have to continue changing. And we believe that this, what we're doing, I mean, we'll continue doing. It's not just during COVID-19. Some of the services have to be provided this way, whether it's online, and we have to increase capacity in other areas. Hispanic community launched its two-generation approach about 2 years ago. And it's working well. I guess it's working now better than ever before. I mean, because of course, parents are in need of help. My biggest concern is the community at large, immigrants that are 55 and older. I'm sure that when Hispanic community reopens, clients will start coming in seeking employment services. And I don't think that it will be just a small group. So it will be a very large group. And as I said before, you know, most of the clients are losing their jobs across all programs. So we believe we have to increase capacity to be able to meet their needs around income supports and around employment. Again, we're going back to helping clients increase household income. For that, of course, we're working with Career Source, and we are also working with Broward College, Broward App Project, make sure, I mean, clients actually can get the vocational skills they need to secure employment. What considerations, you know, with donors and community members alike need to make to support the economic recovery? I would say that we all together have to advocate for a couple of things. One of them is business recovery. I think that somehow our funding priorities have to change across the board, and we have to make sure that small businesses, and I'm not thinking about, just a small business, the regular small business. I'm talking about also the very small business. I mean, the client who sells empanadas, cleans the house. So making sure that they can recover and get back, on their feet. Housing assistance. As Mark, stated before, that got to be one of the priorities, is making sure clients don't get evicted, to stay home, because if they get evicted, we're creating a bigger issue. So how we do it is critical. And I believe we have to secure dollars for rental assistance. We have to secure dollars for foreclosure prevention. And that's one of my biggest issues, because the fantastic work, that all these organizations are doing over the past 10 years could be gone, in just in a year. So part of our priorities and mandates, if you will, is to ensure that our clients, the ones that actually recently secure assets, whether they purchase a house, started, their own business, is that they don't lose those assets. I'm so afraid of expanding the wealth, gap. So making sure that those clients keep their houses is extremely important. Workforce vocational training. I guess some people will have to get new tools and skills, so they can get back in the workplace. Again, mental health. I'm sure everyone here knows, domestic violence and child abuse rates are going up. I heard yesterday, some cases is up to 40% in some communities. So what we are going to do about that, right? I mean, I believe the resources we have, existing resources, are fantastic. I don't know if they're enough. And of course, the resources for seniors. I don't want to take more time, because
yes.
I'm watching my clock and it's almost 1 p.m. So I'm sorry that I went.
That's okay, Felipe. We very much appreciate the comprehensive information that you provided about the work that Hispanic Unity is doing to lead the work of economic mobility among the Hispanic population, the Caribbean population, really the entire population of Broward County. In honor of the questions that are in the chat, I won't ask my questions, but I will say I want to thank each of you on behalf of United Way, being our Center for Working Families partners. We are certainly meeting the need. We know that the need is great, and that the ability to meet the need will be continuous work, partnership across sectors to be able to provide some real solutions to the challenges that we're facing. Not only we saw those issues before COVID, but as a result of COVID, in addition to all of the issues that we're seeing in the community during the time of COVID, there's real work that we need to continue. But we are, as a Broward community, flexible, we are nimble, and certainly, Jody, thank you for that word. We are resilient, and we will continue to move the work forward. With 1 minute left on the clock, I will say to Jubilee, absolutely, there are programs to help homeless populations find work. We will send that to you via email. Merrily, there are no age limitations that exclude elderly from any of the services that United Way centers provide in terms of financial stability and economic mobility. Felipe, thank you for highlighting the issues of the immigrant population. Certainly, we've seen some very dire issues come up, and the ability for Hispanic community to meet those needs has been phenomenal. Really great speakers. Kathleen says, last question in comment, Marilee asks, are there any coordinated efforts in this area, in other geographies, to push job repatriation of in-home jobs, such as contact center work by major corporations? Is there anyone who could tackle that question as we end this Lunch and Learn? Coordinated efforts, including to push job repatriation for in-home jobs. So Marilee, it doesn't appear that any of our speakers are aware of any coordinated efforts. Certainly if there's some information that you have around what the challenge is with that and how we can best begin to address that, certainly we will push that out to our network of financial stability providers here in Broward County and begin to have some dialogue with you on that as well. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for our community partners. Thank you for our funder partners who have joined this call. Please continue the great work to help our families become economically mobile and have a very fantastic rest of your day.
Great, thank you.
Thank you everybody for joining us. We'll see you next week about our topic for vaping. Thank you so much to our speakers today. Thank you to all of our supporters. You are the people who are helping us to heal Broward through all of our wonderful work that we do and through our community partners like Arc Broward, Hispanic Unity, and Urban League. So thank you all for supporting us. If you have questions about making your pledge to continue your support or to make your first time gift or to join our affinity groups, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we will see you all next week on our UWBC Lunch and Learn. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Everybody be safe. Nice to see you all.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.